Hey, there it goes. My name's Adam. That's Hayley. No, that's Hayley. And in my crotch is Tyler. Hey, Tyler.
Why is he in your crotch?
Because it's underneath me. I don't know why he's in my crotch. Why does he choose to go? Why does he choose to put himself underneath me every week, Hayley? I don't know.
You choose the stream layout, so it's clearly where you want Tyler.
Quite the harassment that's happening in our enterprise. All right. How's everybody doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Tyler?
I think he was not asking us.
Oh, okay. Well, he said everybody, so therefore that includes
you
us.
You are included in everybody.
So I was just wondering, Tyler, how are you feeling today? Is everything good?
Well, over the weekend, I lost my wallet in the woods. I tried to retrace my steps, but I was in the woods. I don't know if you're familiar with the woods, but the big landmarks in the woods are logs and rocks. So I was never able over many hours to find my wallet again. So I'm replacing all of my identifying cards. If you happen to be out in the woods in North Alabama and you happen to find my wallet that has been since rained on and you want to bring it back to me.
I mean, what kind of person goes for a walk in the woods and takes all of their idea? I mean, I wanted to say this when you told me originally, Tyler, but I thought I'd save it to stream. What kind of person does that, Tyler?
An idiot. I mean, I'm not going to deny that it was. I mean, I feel quite dumb. It's okay though. Thank you to Rolo, Rannon, Zia Knight, Caitlin.
Like, what are you trying to do? Buy stuff from Bears is what Aggie says.
Aggie.
From Bears, yeah. Bears have quite the economy. I don't know if y'all know this. Yes.
Oh man.
No, I patted my book bag and anyway, it's a whole thing.
It's okay, Ty. We're going to give you shit no matter what. If you hadn't have lost your keys or wallet or whatever, we would have still given you shit.
I know.
Just so you know.
All righty. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. We're going to be talking about some more experimental roles today.
It's not just the Kickstarters, it is all the experimentals that have officially been released / announced. Even if you don't have the tokens for them at home in your Grimoire with the Kickstarter collection, we're still talking about them.
We're starting in the Fs. If you haven't watched the previous few weeks, we've been doing them alphabetically as Count Dictionary prescribed. Yeah, F you for watching this right now. We're going to start with the Fearmonger. Each night, choose a player. If you nominate and execute them, their team loses. All players choose a new player. So I like that verbiage, their team loses. That makes the whole, you make a good Fearmonger, doesn't really make a difference. It's all about what team the person chosen is on.
Yeah. So,
Hayley,
I mean...
what are your thoughts on the Fearmonger?
Yeah, so I have mixed feelings on it. I don't think it should be higher than a B, honestly. I think that it is fun for the person playing the Fearmonger and maybe nobody else. And if that Fearmonger player is having a bad day, they could kind of tank their own team if they really wanted to. That would be some mad toxic behavior, but that makes it a possibility. It feels like it's I mean, I know the town would have to vote on it and everything, but it's kind of a lot of power to change the win condition of the game. I don't know. It's I don't know that it's fun for anybody else. It probably fits into a lot of scripts, I think, because it doesn't really have any what's the word I'm looking for? Like interactions that could unbalance a game. With other characters, so it probably fits in anywhere. As a storyteller, I'm kind of neutral about it. I wouldn't want to play against it, although I do kind of like the announcement of the Fearmonger. I can't remember what it is. The Fearmonger has chosen a whatever
new player. Yep.
Yeah. I like that announcement. That just adds a little something to the game when you're playing with a Fearmonger in the circle. But I think really the most fun out of a Fearmonger is from the person playing it.
I think so. Something we don't give enough credit to on some of these roles previously, like the cult leader, has been the way that we have done the cult leader, is the way it changes the game and how people play it. The Fearmonger adds this whole element now where people no longer trust nominations, or basically just no longer trust nominations. No longer trust the person doing the nominating. Why is that person doing the nominating? Why are you nominating Steve? Why are you doing it, Hayley? Why should I trust your nomination? It adds an element to the game, and that can be fun and spice things up for once in a while. I don't know that it's necessarily a great role. I don't know that they're trying to make it or even trying to think it's an S role. But for what it does, that it adds a little something different, to the game, and gives you something just to play around with differently, like Riot or like Legion, that can be thrown into any script if you want to just change it up for a bit. I think it does its job well. So I think B is probably fair, but I wouldn't be upset if it goes in C, because I'm not going to throw it on too many scripts.
Yeah. Those are all good points. I think it is kind of like, maybe it's like a little bit of a writer's block type of thing. You know, it's like, oh, you got to spice up your love life a little bit. Let's bring this whip and chain. Maybe not every night, but every once in a while, you know what I'm saying? But I don't actually even feel that good about it. I feel like it doesn't really help its team win. Any minion that has a that takes away the options that
it isn't just me.
Tyler, I wasn't sure if it was just me, but I didn't want to interrupt. Tyler, you sound like a robot.
I'm robotic. All I can do is leave and come back. Hold on.
Yeah, sorry about that, chat.
Technical difficulty Tuesday.
Any better?
So far, try again. Keep going. Start again.
Alrighty. So the Fearmonger, in terms of the issue with it for me is initially that it's a minion that now town knows this minion is in play. One of the things the evil team has as an advantage in a lot of games is that you have to figure out what minions you're up against before you can even start deducing who's on the evil team, right? Is my information poison? Is this player, registering as something they're not? Is the game going to end? All these types of different things. Well, the Fearmonger is an announced thing, so you know what you're up against, and that kind of takes away some of the deduction that needs to happen for the good team. Now, the element of, well, I can't trust who's nominating, that has led to a lot of towns in which now people are being asked or bullied into nominating themselves. I don't like any social dynamics like that in game. I don't like it. Any role in which people feel encouraged to tell people how to vote, who to nominate, all those types of different things. All that stuff is, it is social, but it's actually kind of like antisocial in terms of behaviors to exhibit and what it can do for your group, in my opinion. So I'm not a huge fan of it. I would be up for a rework of the Fearmonger in which people are not allowed to nominate themselves if you were in play. But as it currently stands, I think the Fearmonger is a tier C type of minion. Just not into it.
I don't even know if the rework would really bring it up to B or A either, right? Like if you made like a house rule, or if you went to Steve and said, Steve, you need to change this, I don't know if that would fix it up to, AS categories at all. I think it is a fun character that you can throw into a game every once in a while just to make a change to how it's all being played. It's really what it comes down to for me, the Fearmonger. Nothing too heavy, nothing too light, pretty straightforward in what it does. Most people can understand it after you just start in the game with it. But yeah, I think you're right. I think the rework, and that is a great idea, Tyler. Well done on having that idea. The rework would be super useful for it. So yeah, I'm good. C it is, I think.
Really? Okay. I mean, are there any drawbacks to it, really, that would put it in C? I just don't know that C, right. I can't think of anything truly negative about it.
Well, the drawbacks that I have is that that it's if you are the Fearmonger, you cannot decide not to make a choice on night one. So the good team, unless there's a pit hag, knows exactly what minions they're up against immediately, right? Mm-hmm. So if you look at the list and you go, oh, there's 3 other minions on here. I hope we're not facing up against that thing, and that thing, right? Well, we're not. Great. We don't have to worry about that problem or that issue. I know exactly what issue I have to deal with, and it's a limited issue based on who can nominate, right? So now I'm looking specifically for Adam keeps trying to nominate so-and-so and keeps trying to get us to vote for him, and I'm just not going to go for that, right? And so town goes, well, would you nominate yourself? And then it kind of gets into that role, which I don't agree with. So those are my 2 issues with it. I think evil is much more effective a lot of times when there's mystery around what the the minions are. A widow, for example, gets to make a choice about whether or not they want to be an outed quantity. And even then, right, they can be a lot more effective being known and then poisoning. But if they don't want to be, if they feel like leave it to the imagination, then they can make that choice. The Fearmonger never gets to make that decision.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, hold on. I'm gonna argue against it. I'm gonna do devil's advocate here, which is a character in Blood on the Clocktower. But so Tyler,
Adam's half-hearted defense.
Yeah, okay.
Aha.
Tyler, what's your favorite demon?
Well, so the Al-Hadik is my favorite demon. But there is ambiguity. Yes, the demon ambiguity is effective for the evil team. And I agree that feels like a little bit of a hypocrisy on my part. I think the mystery in the minions tends to be much more damning or damaging for the good team than mystery in the demon. That's my experience when we were doing all of our different play tests of demons, where people thought, oh, if it's a known Vortox, they'll easily be able to beat that. Nope. If it's a known Puka, they'll easily be able to beat that. Nope. You know, I mean, so I think what I've come to learn from those experiences is that knowing what the demon is not necessarily as good for town as knowing what your minions are that you're having to face off against. So
yes, I do, and this is a half-hearted defense, right, Ty? Let's be clear. So I wasn't even going to lay in you too much on the Al-Hadik part, but it is, like you say, it is a little bit hypocritical because
Sure.
the point of the Fearmonger, if that has that little fix where you cannot nominate yourself, it needs to be known that it's in play for its rule to be active for a start, but also it creates that fear of who's nominating who and why are they nominating, right? Mm-hmm. So it has that. The reason you've got to play outed and not that you've got to play outed, the reason that character has to be outed and known is because you need to be able to implement that fear factor of who's doing what. So I hear what you're saying about it is a shame that town necessarily in a one minion game now knows either A, the Fearmonger is or isn't in play, but it depends what else you balance that out with. If you've got a bunch of minions that are going to be known, like the Psychopath and some other ones, right, that are going to be out there and known from the start of the game, it's a different kettle of fish than as to what you're running into. But
not to jump ahead too far, but like, so the Psychopath is a good basis of a comparison. You know immediately once the Psychopath uses their ability that they're the minion in play, right? And but the Psychopath, I think most people would agree, is a lot more fun to watch happen, right? And you know, even though like I don't feel like the Psychopath, and we can get in this when we do the tier rating, I don't think it's actually very good for its team, but it is a lot more fun, right? I that's my personal feeling on it. You know, if y'all want to move it up to B on that basis, that's fine. I do think it's C though. That's where I'm at.
I mean, it does do its job though, doesn't it? Like it's called
a
a
win condition.
Fearmonger. It literally like spreads fear. That's what it does. It is what it says on the tin.
I just don't think it's a fun job.
And that's fair. That's why it is an S though, right? But is it fair to put it down to C? I don't know on reflection. Like as I'm making this half-hearted argument in defense for it, I don't know if it is fair to put it down to C based on those things. Hayley, well spotted. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. I think it probably needs to go in B for now. Fearmonger.
So much in the
Fearmonger.
experimental that's
B.
in B.
All right. Well, maybe later we'll come re-rank the Bs and split them out into A, B, C, and Ds or something, you know?
D? Oh, you gave a
Maybe.
new tier just for the experimental.
I mean, looking at how long this row is getting, we might need to be honest. All right. Should we move on to...
You know, you could clear up some space in that B row by putting Fearmonger in C where it belongs.
Or the Fisherman. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're supposed to read it, so give it to us.
All right. Once per game during the day, visit the storyteller for some advice on how to help your team win. Fisherman. I almost read the general by accident.
You're like,
my
nope,
job.
don't want it. So the Fisherman has an issue for me that's a lot like the Savant when we were talking about the Savant and how variable it can be in terms of how effective it is and how much it unbalances the game and who's running it. It's a tough one. If the Fisherman goes to the storyteller early, the storyteller doesn't have as much of a sense of the game and what advice is going to be both good for that player while also not just throwing the game like, don't trust Hayley and Adam. They're assholes. Oh, okay. Well, all right. Why wouldn't I trust them, boss? You know? So it's a tough one to balance based on when they come and get the advice, how much you know. I do think it is. I think it can be fun. If it's fun to learn as a storyteller how to give that advice. I think it's fun for the player a lot of times, unless they feel like the storyteller deliberately gave them advice that wasn't helpful. Because you got to remember the text. This is advice to help you win the game. And it's like, well, if my advice is execute these players, well, that's unbalanced. And if my advice is don't trust anybody in the game, well, that's not very useful for the player. So I think it's tough. I put it as kind of like the Savant, where we had it as a wandering bee, is how I would label it, right? So it's like, it was some people's hands, it's an S, and other people's hands, it's a C. It's going to have a lot of variation in it.
I straight up think that this is a C, honestly. It's a budget savant. Like, you've got one time. It is. It's a budget savant.
Dollar store savant.
And I mean, part of the storyteller's job is to give advice to players when they ask for it. Not necessarily that they can win with, but, you know, people can deduce themselves whether or not a bit of advice would be helpful for them winning or not. I just don't know what it really adds, honestly, to the game overall. This is absolutely a C for me.
It's, you know, as speaking of editing that video this weekend, one of the things I noticed when I was sitting there watching the Savant conversation that was happening was I've realized that my issue with Savant is I don't know if nervous is the right way to put it, but with the experience that players are getting now, and with the worldview that players are able to build now much, much easier than they used to be able to 3 years ago when we started running, Savant information is too throwy, and Fisherman information is the next level. It can be too throwy, and the Fisherman information can be the next level of too throwy. I almost feel like, as a storyteller, if it's Fisherman, you use it early to make sure you get to use your ability, you're not going to get something that helpful. But if you can save it, not be outed, not everyone know, and there's still a worldview out there where I can give you the truth if good is completely on the wrong path, I'm gonna nail it for you. I'm gonna tell you this person's the demon. You should kill them. Let you figure out if you're poisoned, drunk, or whatever else, right? If good is nowhere near that person, they all think someone else is the demon. This is going to be your Fisherman information or something like that, right? And the longer you can leave it, the more powerful I will make that Fisherman information, because I have a better handle on what's going on in the game at that point. So I think the Fisherman is a bit like the Savant, where I would absolutely understand why anyone wants to. I don't think I could ever put it on S, but I would understand why almost anyone wants to put it on A, B, or C, right? Straight up, honestly, I could completely understand why anyone would want to do that. I just don't want to agree with Hayley again.
Yeah, I don't think it's a C at all. I don't think there's any world in which it's a C, in my opinion, because it is beneficial for its team. And it is beneficial for a certain type of player. Like, if they drew the artist, they wouldn't know what to ask. But if you have a player who's newer or is trying to wrap their head around what's going on, and you want to, you know, move them back on course and help them get acclimated to the game, it's a great role for that. So it's really good for those types of scripts if you're trying to help people along. I can't view it as a C in that world.
So Knife's making a good point in chat that Ben Dance gave a good tip for the Fisherman. You ask the player what they think about the state of the game and then give them advice towards their ideas about the game. I think that does that bring it for me, though? I don't think it does.
It is.
That's a great work. That's a rework advice.
Running it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's great. That's a different role, right?
Is it?
Once per game. Tell the storyteller what you think is going about the game, and then they poke a hole in what your opinion is, right? Like, I mean, it is a good. I'm not saying that's bad advice. That is good advice. I'm saying it just seems like that's a rework. It's a house rule that works well for that particular role. It's an
almanac. It is an almanac entry of what should I do when I'm trying to be this role? Well, you could go and ask. It's an almanac entry, right? It is an almanac entry, in my opinion, where, you know, just giving people advice.
That'd be like the Savant, that'd be like ask a Savant player, like, what outsiders do you think are in play? Well, I can either tell you your true statement is blah and your false statement is, or here are your two statements. You know, I mean, it's just,
You definitely shouldn't lead with telling them which is their true.
No, you shouldn't tell them which one's true or false. But one of them's always true and one of them's always a lie. Anyway,
I do not feel strongly enough to insist that we put it in C at all. It's just shut up, you as well. I'm going to start calling you out on it.
Do.
So
just making my job harder, Hayley.
Yeah, I'm not going to advocate for it to be in C. That's just where I personally feel about it. I think your arguments are strong and correct even, and Adam especially saying anything from S to C and it's player and storyteller dependent.
No,
I thought you said S.
Almost never S.
Never S. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I could see that as well. You've kind of convinced me that if for somebody that's not me, it is not necessarily always a C.
You need to fish on the day you're about to die. Let's be honest. Or just before you're going to die that night, you need to fish. That's how you need to fish. Straight up.
That's right. Are you about to be executed? I'm sorry. I need to go back to the river real quick. Give me a time catch.
All right, moving on.
So wait, where did you put it? You
B.
put it in B. Man, this B tier, seriously.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to rework that. Move the king down, choir boy up, alchemist up to S.
I agree with. I thought about the king choir boy thing a lot after we had that episode, and I agree with that in general. It might be worth reevaluating, moving the king down and the choir boy up.
I could see that as well. I mean, if you just want to do that, but does that throw off Adam's edit for the podcast?
It's not necessary for today.
We will probably need to re-rank these Bs.
There is going to be some space probably at the end of this where we can sit down and have another conversation and talk about the ones that now on reflection or on further play or whatever else we can readjust it. But conversation for another day. Moving on, Hayley.
Yes. So up next we have the General. Each night, you learn which the storyteller believes is winning. Good, evil, or neither. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, the general... I think the general might have been... When I first got access to the experimental character list, I think the general went straight on that because I love the idea of creating interaction between the players and the storyteller to the point where it's something I can actually help them with information on a regular basis. I love that interaction. So the general for me has always been something that I'm sitting here thinking about it. I know it's on Sweet Dreams. I'm pretty sure it's on Morning Madness. I really like the general. It's got a great ability that allows you to give town information from the start of the game to let them know if anything's changed, if anything's up. It's a great role to have poisoned or drunk and give them completely the wrong information for like, how the hell is evil winning already? It's great. It's great for that. Like there's the general is great as an evil bluff as well, where they get to come out and pretend this information. I'm not sure about necessarily a demon bluff. I think it could be a weaker demon bluff, but a minion bluff for sure. I think a minion bluff that doesn't mind playing out there as pretending to be the general. I think it's fine. I think it's solid. So I don't see any weakness for me. I'm trying to think of a weakness for me that would say general should be lower than A. And maybe, I don't want to say S, but it just has no weakness. Apart from maybe not as great as a demon bluff. It's just got no weakness. I'm not saying it's the best information role, but it is a solid information to know which team the storyteller thinks is winning. I think that's solid information. If that tells you, sorry, it's Tyler, I know you want to step in, I know I pretty much finished there, but I just want to say that tells you who the storyteller is trying to help rebalance the game for right now. Think about it that way. Anytime a storyteller that says to you, evil's winning right now, that means last night they probably tried to do things that help good. So if information now comes out the next day that seems weird or fishy, you might be able to look at that and go, drunk, poisoned, evil player lying. The general gives you more than you might realize it does just based on that fact alone. Sorry, Tycho.
So I would say the only reason it's not S is because if you get in that final day and you get your last night of general info, I don't think it's going to tell you enough to really make a decision on who you want to nominate.
That's fair.
I mean, I guess there may be parameters, there may be edge cases that I'm not thinking of, but I generally like if what you would know coming into that final day is, well, if you get told evil's winning, then you might be the only good left alive. Hey, that's something that's good to know, but it doesn't tell you who to nominate. And then if you are getting good as winning, maybe that indicates that y'all nominated the demon before. I mean, I don't know. But in any case, I almost had the inverse of that experience with the general. I wasn't as into it initially. And then as I see more things, especially more experimental roles coming out in different setups, it seemed like the general had a lot more utility in a lot of different situations. I mean, it has general utility throughout. It's, in any kind of script, it can have utility. But if you have it on a script where there's Legion or there's a lot of like alignment shifting roles, the cult leader, the Mezephiles, the goon, all those types of different things, bounty hunter. If the storyteller is telling you that evil is winning, it might indicate to you that there are more evils than should be, right? So one of the things that might be worth considering for for running the general is where you set the baseline at whether or not this is a normal circumstances and evil is above the normal circumstances where they should be, below it, any of those types of different things. But I think I got bit early on with a player who was a Vortoxed general, and that really messed with they never disregarded their information, not once, and that really irritated me. But in any case, I think it is a great bluff, like you were suggesting, because it's pretty easy to do. And if you get the storyteller's cadence, like some storytellers do, like the different degrees of warm, or not warm, but they'll do like slightly evil or slightly good, things like that. If you get a sense of how they would present it, then that can always kind of support your bluff in that instance. But yeah, I think it's an A tier role. I think it's got good information. It can be fun to play. A lot of people bluff it when we put it on scripts. It's funny. We had like 4 generals in one game, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's fine. Don't worry about it." So.
Yeah.
I agree with you both. I think it probably is A. The only thing I disagree with, and this is kind of going on in chat as well, is the slightly evil, slightly good. You can't do that in an in-person game. I feel like that's the thing that's come about with online games, because your communication with the player is silent. What? Oh, I'm not watching your video. Why would I?
I'm putting it at a corner angle.
Yeah, but that feels really... No, see, I would be asking you for clarification on that the next day. What do you mean? Like, was that a thumbs up, or was that a sideways? Like, yeah.
No.
So I don't think
you could get one of the wavelength, scale thing or whatever, meters, and just be like,
But yeah, I do think it is probably an A. And the point about the bluffs, which I'd actually missed for Fisherman is also a good and easy evil bluff as well. So I think
don't know that many people trust it though. Again, but sorry, don't want to.
I'm taking myself out of the C statement I originally said for Fisherman. Is all I'm circling back to there. But yeah, general is an A. I don't. Yeah.
Well, we can't agree, so I need to move the Fisherman down to C now. But anyway, carry on. Sorry, Ty.
Well, just so people know from chat, there's a lot of good statements in here. Unknown 25 mil, whose real name I know but won't reveal.
So known 25
I think it works best on scripts with lots of room for crazy worlds. And I think that is interesting. The more things that can go on in a script, the general can start to peel some of that back and go, oh, okay, maybe we are on the edgiest of edge cases now, and we should be worried about X, Y, and Z. And maybe we've got this all wrong, I think that can be pretty fun.
Yeah, agreed. I think we're all agreeing A, right?
Everybody but Ekin, who I love.
What's Ekin saying? C? Ekin!
Ekin, this is why you're not invited onto this channel to talk, just so you know, Ekin.
Ekin's with us every week, just not on Tuesdays.
All right.
Well, I think Ekin's got a lot of... We should get Ekin on for these experimental roles, because he's got a lot of thoughts. He hasn't watched them all, so he'll have to go back and watch some of the VODs and then come back around.
Yeah, let us know when you've watched them, and then you'll get an invite.
I think if the general... If you plop it in the middle of trouble brewing, then I can't see a reason why the general would get anything other than neutral on night 1, other than like a poison snipe of a of a
there
first
are lots
night
of
info
reasons.
roll.
Yep.
There are reasons, right? So I think that information can be good. So what's interesting too is that like
Fortune
you could
teller
do
pick the
some
demon
fun
on that
things
one?
with a spy and a general, because the spy could register as good, and so you'd be like, oh, good's winning. So you could use it as a way to signify that that there's a spying game if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
You can do some fun stuff, I think, but that's my thoughts on it.
Yep. Moving on.
The Goblin is next on our list. If you publicly claim to be the Goblin when nominated and are executed that day, your team, they just win. They just win the game.
Easy claps.
That's the Goblin.
So I do not have much experience with the Goblin. I've seen it played online a few times, I think. I'm pretty sure it's probably been in a couple of our games. Mm-hmm. And people seem to really enjoy playing it. It sounds fun on its surface. Honestly, it almost sounds kind of S-tiery for a minion on its surface, but I am willing to be swayed otherwise. Adam?
All right. Goblin. Goblin creates... obviously we can't talk about it being Goblin is an easy role for a new player to play. It's a great role for an experienced player to play. It gives evil a new win condition, which is good for evil. It also creates a little mini puzzle within a puzzle where... Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not about to spoil anything Tyler's got coming up. It also creates a puzzle within a puzzle where all of a sudden you're looking at those minions going, okay, do we actually have a Goblin in play? Is there a situation where this person's telling the truth that they are actually Goblin? Does the minion count? Have we seen anything from a Ceranovus or a Pit Haggin? It creates those environments where you got to figure it out. So I would probably put Goblin as S, because again, I'm trying to think of its downsides. You might have to re-rack early. That's it, right? That's the only thing I can think of, which is terrible for off-meta streams, but fine. But
brilliant in real life, honestly.
Yeah.
That's kind of a, yeah.
So yeah, that's probably where I stand on it. I think probably S.
The only knock I would have against the Goblin is the same I have against, of course, the evil teams can mitigate this, right? My only issue with the Goblin for the evil team and its success is that if everybody comes to go like, well, we're pretty resolved in some way, that we know that Adam is the Goblin, right? You claim Goblin. I use my artist question and I go, hey, storyteller, is Adam the Goblin? They go, yes, right? Then you are no longer a viable demon candidate in a lot of circumstances, which is a negative for your team. So if there are ways to confirm your Goblinness, right, then that, and it's something that you announce. So now we are playing into that type of different thing. But in all of the things that y'all talk about, the Goblin is fun for people to play. It's the only evil role that I see consistently good players bluffing as, right? Which says something about it.
That says S tier right there, right?
It causes good to create their own chaos. There you go. You've sold me already, Tyon S tier.
Yeah.
I think that is pretty interesting. It's so funny because I think the Goblin as a minion role has rubbed off on people's play styles, where I see people like bluffing all kinds of minion roles, right? They're like, I might be the Scarlet Woman. It's like, why would you say that? You're the chef. Anyway, go for it, man. But anyway, so I just think it is the most fun version of the outed evil role. I think it's one where the whole evil team could just sit there and be like, yeah, we're all goblins. So just, I guess take a shot, see what happens. You know what I mean? And they can mess with your head that way, and that can be fun in certain cases. I think that is the only negative thing, is if there's something like a town crier, if there's something like a what's another good minion finder? Obviously, if an investigator sees them, that's kind of lame. Any of those types of different things.
Investigator seeing it between the Goblin and the Demon is
and
also...
the Demon. I guess there's that. Yeah. So you've got something there, but anything like a town crier or somebody doing an artist question or savant info that leads people to believe a certain thing, that can make it to where they just avoid that particular landmine. You ever play that game Minesweeper, where you just like sit there and it's like, we'll just put a dot there, and then it narrows down who could be the demon candidate. That's the only thing that brings it down to an A for me. But If other people are very passionate about it, I could see it being an S.
There are several counters, right? Like you just talked about, Clockmaker as well can be detrimental to a lot of these outed evil roles, like Psychopath and Goblin as well. Can completely throw it. But the saving grace for it is that the demon can also bluff it, right? Because as you've just mentioned, good players do also claim to be Goblin.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping a demon from saying, no, they're lying, I'm the Goblin, don't kill me. So there's nothing at all stopping them from doing that. The only downside, like you say, is if it is the investigator saw the Goblin between the Goblin and not the demon type thing. I don't know. But
yeah.
It's a limited edge case. I think there, and as has been said in chat, and I know I'm going to steal your thunder, Hayley, the Goblin has an S tier icon.
Yeah, it really does. It's so great. Yeah.
Who said that? Oh, who said that? I'm trying to find that.
Piranha Heat.
Thank you.
We ran a game.
You've gone
So
blurry,
Unknown
Ty.
25 mil said, I wish Good would bluff Goblin more. I think we were running a game with Goblin. I got all blurry all of a sudden.
Yeah,
Stop.
there you go.
I think we were running a game on off meta where we had a 9-player game with Goblin in it, and I think 3 of the good players bluffed Goblin at some point during the game. Anyway, it was pretty funny.
I'm trying to remember if that was the game where... No.
Oh, yeah. That Goblin face mask of Marshall's is heat.
All right, so I'm somewhere between S and A. I could really go for either. Did we... I put the general up in S, but did we say A and I just put it in the wrong spot for general?
Yes, I think we said A.
We said A.
Yes.
So
We've not got much in S. I don't know that
that's
we'll
not
have
the reason
many,
to put it up in S.
many minions that are better, really.
I need to take a look through what's coming up.
I don't know. I mean, or generally even, are there many minions that are better? I don't know that there are.
Yeah.
Well, not to get too ahead of ourselves, but I know we got Widow and things like that to come, so there are some good minions out there.
Psychopath
that get a lot of
we're
play.
having a disagreement on.
Psychopath.
I don't have Widow on my list, I don't think. I'm missing Widow. I guess I need to add that one. All right. Hopefully I'm not missing anything
I
between
think
H and
you
F.
You
removed
don't
things
have anything.
that didn't have Kickstarter on them. But yeah, we can put Goblin as an S if people. I mean, I put it in A, and I thought that was like, oh, this might. I didn't think it would be even controversial. But if everybody else thinks it's an S, I think it is a.
I'm trying
it brings a lot to the table.
The only downside, like I say, potentially, the only reason that I would knock it down from S, and I'm trying to look for reasons that things aren't S. Why is this character not an S? And the general, like you said, is just for that one reason where it doesn't necessarily help you find the demon. Fair is the only reason why I'm even like saying, okay, fine, you can put it down to A. The Goblin, every reason you say against it, apart from like the investigator happening to like have a poor, and that's probably more a poor storyteller moment than necessarily a bad character thing. If there's one character that could mess it up, but everything else, the demon can bluff it, everyone can bluff it, everyone can claim it. I don't see any reason to knock it down.
I mean, there are some great things that evil can do if those things are on a script. If you have a preacher and a goblin on a script, then the one evil can bluff preacher and be like, well, we can't execute them. We don't have to. I'm not saying that we need to go after this. It doesn't really make a difference. But we can execute them if we're afraid of it because I preached Hayley last night. So she's a damp squid right now. And that can be a great way to steal a win, by bluffing and getting people on side. So
yeah. Hayley muted.
Sorry. Yeah. I guess maybe it does go in A. I don't know.
I'm still stuck on S for me personally, but if you guys want
tell us what you think, Shaq, because we're about to move on to the next role.
I think we've got one to go today. So Hayley, do you want to read the next one and I'll start with the one after next week? I think we're only going to have time for one more today.
Okay.
Muted.
That's fine. Sorry. Yes, I was muted. I was just excited to do the H because, H.
Yeah.
But no, Adam, you just do it. I want to take it next time. It's mine.
Adam's muted for me.
I thought it
Today
was,
we're also going to cover the Golem. You may only nominate once per game. When you do, if the nominee is not the demon, they dead.
Before you start, Tyler.
Okay.
I have an issue with how this is pronounced. I hear so many people saying Golem, as in like Lord of the Rings, when it's a golem. It's golem, not golem. Continue.
Golem. So let me give the pros first. It's fun to play, which is always a good thing to have. The negative of that is it's an outsider, so maybe it shouldn't be so fun to play. Anything where the evil team wants to poison it is probably not a good outsider. Yes, are there occasions, and I put together a script for Riot the other day where the whole idea was to make Golem an outsider, it just doesn't feel like an outsider to me. So, but I put it as a B tier because it just doesn't. I think if the evil team sees that on a script, they're thinking, "Oh, great, another townsfolk potentially to be in play." This is not the only time it really comes into play is if somehow it does its thing, town doesn't have time to execute it, and it's sitting there unable to nominate on the final day. That's its only downside, really. Which is not enough to qualify as an outsider, in my opinion.
Okay. Again, this is another one I don't have a ton of experience with. So I might just pass so that I don't sit here saying a bunch of words and irritating Adam.
You already have. All right. Golem. Golem might be, in my opinion, an S tier outsider, Tyler. So everything you just talked about is what makes the Golem an S tier. Apart from the fact that you're right, they might want to poison it. Might want to. Worst that happens is we lose a minion. 1 in 12 chance of hitting the demon or whatever players are left alive at that point. If it's getting late in the game and you know the Golem's out there, you probably just want to kill it as the demon instead, which, maybe soaks it up. But if it has used its ability and killed a player, and if it no longer has the ability to nominate, town now has to get rid of it. It has to be executed, which is tying up one of 4 or 6 or maybe 7 or 8 executions that town gets a game, an entire game. It's taken up anywhere from one of the 4 or to one of the 8 executions that town's going to get in an entire game. It is, and it's also removing a townsfolk. Most likely, percentage-wise, chance of hitting a townsfolk is the highest, right? So it's also got the highest chance to remove a townsfolk from the game by killing it, as well as then also needing to soak up an execution. It is a wonderful experience because town. Look, so right now the problem is right now the meta hasn't developed yet where the Golem is going to be just like some other outsiders were look, kill me early. I'm the Golem. I don't want to use my ability and get someone killed and then not be able to do anything. We'll have to waste our thing later. It'd be better to just kill me now. And that's probably the meta that's going to develop at some point with the Golem. Maybe not, though, because it is fun to be it's fun to be like that, right? So maybe that meta isn't going to develop, but we'll see. That's the one downside to it that you might convince me pulls it down from an S, but otherwise, I guess let me rephrase that. With that, along with the fact that evil might need to kill it or poison it, but is that cost? Is that this is the price that evil might have to pay. This is the great side that it gets for them.
It basically is a virgin. It is an outsider that can mechanically confirm itself. And it's an outsider. Virgin is a townsfolk because it can mechanically confirm itself. So you have an outsider that can mechanically confirm itself.
But can't nominate.
And you were saying, town might lose one of their executions. Well, if I watched so many games, hundreds of games, how many nominations in the mid game are just ill-founded garbage? We need to kill somebody. We need to execute somebody. Right. Well, okay. Well, they're a great placeholder for those days. They don't, cause any issues. As somebody mentioned in chat, this wasn't my original idea, but they can nominate themselves, so they get the quality of a self-nominating virgin. They can nominate themselves. Why couldn't they? They're not a demon. They die.
I'm sure there used to be a thing on the columns like if you nominate yourself, your team loses. But maybe I'm wrong. I thought there was on Golem.
Oh, well, yeah, it's not the current text, so.
Okay.
So I just think there's so many issues which make it a difficult thing for the evil team to counter. And like you said, like if they get a weird sniff of somebody and claim something odd to them and they go, I just got a hunch, they could kill a minion on day one just from their ability. That is incredibly potent. Something that no other role can do. And yeah, is the likelihood that they'll get a townsfolk? Yeah, probably. That's how the math works. But nonetheless, that is a super, potent ability on its face that also confirms you mechanically. It makes it more difficult to bluff because of the mechanical confirmation. Mm-hmm. Can you get away with going like, I'm holding it? Everybody's going to be like, why are you holding it? That's not good for us if you sit there and hold it forever. So you're going to be suspicious if you're trying to bluff it as a golem that's holding on to their ability. You'll also be suspicious. You might get one good turn out of, I nominated so-and-so, they didn't die, I think they're the demon, right? But eventually town's going to act on that. The game's not going to end. Well, now you're in the crosshairs. I don't think it makes for a great bluff. I don't think it makes for a great thing to be opposed by. And I just don't feel like it's an outsider. If it were a townsfolk, I might say, yeah, it's probably it may be an A-tier townsfolk, which is not outsider type of quality.
It might need a rework so that, like the Virgin, it only procs on townsfolk. It might need that instead for who's executed, or sorry, who's killed by the golem, should I say? Because you're right. Right now, I guess, not that you're right. There are points that you made in there that I can kind of agree with. But the one that's the key in there is that the golem actually has a better ability than the Virgin in some cases because it can remove evil. It can kill a minion as well, which is more than a Virgin can do.
Which just means it's not an outsider.
Well,
right?
but it has that downside. It has the worst downside of any outsider in the fact that it can't nominate and come final three if it's still alive. And we had that.
That's not a worse outsider than the Saint. That's not a worse outsider than the...
In final three.
That is, like I said, that almost, we hardly ever see that.
We had it in, didn't we have it in final three in one of our games recently? It was in a game I was playing recently online. I'm pretty sure.
There was a TPI stream where I think it got down to the final three, but it wasn't one of ours. We had it in a Riot script. Maybe it was one of ours. I don't know. But I like, to me, that you think, if I were the evil team and I see that versus certain other outs, I'd much rather see a drunk. I'd much rather see a goon. I'd much rather see a saint. I'd much rather see those than the golem because
in final three, or as you mean in the game? Sorry,
in the game.
Yeah, I was talking about final three. Just to be clear, like final three, I don't think there's a worse outsider to have in final three for good than the golem, especially one that's already used its ability, right? Even if it hasn't used its ability,
would kind of suck. But yeah, all right.
The drunk empath getting a 0.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that's on the golem player though, for them to end up in final three.
Not necessarily. Sometimes
shouldn't you just be nominating yourself the day before?
You can't
and
nominate.
Just getting yourself out of the way.
You nominate once is the point of the
game. Exactly. If you haven't used it yet, that's what I'm saying. If you haven't used it yet, you absolutely shouldn't let yourself get down to that final three.
Yeah, I get you. I do hear what you're saying. I think it does have a very steep price to pay. If we think about how much of a game is swayed when there's just one extra evil, this is a good player who can only get to nominate once. It is a detriment to good team for that reason alone. It is the flip side of the extra evil player that now gets to nominate or have an extra vote. It is the flip side of that, in my opinion. But I do hear what you're saying. And I think it is very close to S. I think you're right. I think that it needs a little, maybe it was me that said this. I think it needs a little rework to put it into S, but I think it's pretty close. And I think it's got to be an A in my opinion. Maybe you guys don't agree, but that's where I'm at with it. Go on, you guys both put it in B then. That's fine. You're wrong, but you could do it. That's your right as an American citizen to do that. Aren't you? Okay. Why am I?
I just think as an outsider, that the things you're describing are, it's almost, All right. So if it can't nominate in final 3, that only really hurts it if, and only if, it is the only good remaining, right? If it's all evils left on the table plus it, then yes, obviously that's a game loser. That is such an edge case that I would much rather, as an evil, take my chances against a lot of other outsiders than an outsider that can confirm itself mechanically. Everybody can go to it and say, hey, here's my information. So you're getting the benefit of a townsfolk
You hate that, Tyler.
type ability. I don't like that meta. I'm saying but would I rather be the virgin than the drunk? Yes. I mean, that's all I'm saying. This is a mechanically confirmable good roll. You know, yeah, there was people that posted if you have a golem and there's a Fangu on the script, and that throws all that stuff out, and that is very interesting, but that's true of any outsider. But yeah, something that can mechanically confirm itself and then be turned, I like those types of things, so that does bring it up a little bit, but it doesn't bring it up more than a B to me.
Okay. I got excited there for a second, then you ruined it for me. So Hayley, A or B? Make the decision. Do you go with your husband's initials and go A's to start with, or do you go with what we think of Tyler and say B for bullshit? So tell me which it is, H.
I don't think Tyler's bullshit.
In this case, it is.
So,
Oh no, not a decision. Hayley hates those.
A.
No, B it is then. There's no way you're allowed to agree with me, Hayley.
I can't believe y'all think so. I don't. Maybe some people in chat don't know the way we are grading outsiders. Outsiders are graded on how much they benefit the evil team, not how much fun they are to play. We did bump some of them up based on that basis. If it's not played like an outsider, if it's essentially a townsfolk, then I think that. Yeah, thank you.
No, how is Golem?
Because it's not beneficial for the evil team.
It is.
It's not really, Adam.
Come on,
it's not.
It gets rid of a townsfolk most likely, and then it can't nominate for the rest of the game, which means town most likely has to get rid of it unless they're 100% sure.
The only thing that separates it, we put Virgin as an S tier townsfolk role.
Yes, it can still nominate.
Hold on. So the only difference between the Golem and the Virgin is that it cannot nominate any longer.
And it's not an execution. So
and as somebody said, okay, so as somebody who said, wow, it doesn't fulfill Vortox, that's what you got? Anyway, you can just execute the corpse because they're still nominated. Anyway, they can also nominate themselves. So there's no way, there's no world in which that is like where evil's going like, oh, I can't wait to see this Golem come out.
Yeah, okay, so B tier outsider, A tier townsfolk. No, it's A tier. If it was a townsfolk, it would be an A. Maybe an S if it was a townsfolk, honestly.
Maybe an S, because it can unilaterally go, I'm killing that minion. I know what you are, and I'm taking you down.
Right, 1 second. Yeah. Experimentals go off. Where's my outsiders? Outsiders, right? This can't be all of them. What's missing from it? A shit ton of them are missing from there. 2, 3. We're missing like... Oh, they're stacked up on top of each other. One.
This is great content.
Shut up. We're done for the day.
They're across to the side. I found them.
There you go.
Shut up. You found them, you shithead. All right. Let's look at this, right? Let's look at this. As an evil player, would I want a golem in the game? Because fuck you, I'm saying a golem now again.
Good.
Over a barber. Is it the wrong way around? What's the other way then? Golem.
Golem is my precious. Golem it
is. So I don't know. I don't look at this.
If I were evil, I'd much rather see a recluse on certain scripts. I'd much rather see a goon. I'd much rather see a barber.
I can't believe we put goon in A, but hey-o.
Well, we didn't. Jack put it in A, and then we elevated it to S.
Poor Jack.
No, but okay.
I mean, those are the truth. But I would much rather see any of those four in. Whoop. Would I much rather see any of those 4 in?
We're just gonna talk to a blurry mirror. Okay,
trying
there we go. Okay, you're in. Oh, would you? Yeah, there you go. Sorry, carry on.
I would much rather go against. I would much rather have any of those 4 in the A tier currently than I would the Golem, and including we put the Damsel in A. I would much rather have as evil. I'd much rather have a Damsel on that script than a Golem. 100%.
Damsel's in S, but
I'd much rather see a damsel than, I'm really, really rude. So,
but okay. So how about the bees though? Are any of those bees you'd want to see over the Golem in the game as an evil player?
Mutant.
Yeah.
Mutant.
Yeah, mutant. Unless the storyteller's running it weird. I think Sweetheart is actually more damaging for town than people, especially when it dies and how people play it. I think. Sweethearts are a lot more impactful. Much rather see a sweetheart than a golem.
Lunatic as well. I'd rather see a lunatic.
It depends on how we ran lunatic the other day.
Correct ranking.
We ran lunatic the other day. They never figured it out. I think it can be pretty impactful, but I know what the culture around the lunatic is in the community, so I'm not making that case. But I mean, I love you guys. I respect you and I hear you, but you're all fucking wrong.